Good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to the sixth episode of Meet the Candidates. I am your host, Camila Turner. And again, just thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing the videos, watching the videos, and having conversations about the people who are running for elected office in Shelby County. Um, Early voting has already started. It started last Friday and it's going on until July 30th, which is this coming Saturday. Someone told me that only 4% of people in Shelby County have already voted. So that's a low number. So let's go ahead and get out there and start voting, because we want to have a great turnout because we have so many people on the ballot. As you all know, this is the longest ballot in Shelby County history. We have all of the judges, we have county commissioners, we have a school board, we have the DA, we have juvenile court judge. We have so many positions that are important. And today I have three people who are running. My first guest is already here. Mischelle Alexander Best is running for General Sessions, Criminal Court, Division 12. Welcome to Meet the Candidates.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. So tell us what position you are running for and what exactly the person in that position is responsible for.
Okay, well, I'm running for judge in Jones Sessions Criminal Court. You know, we have on our side up to the 7 through 15 is part of the criminal part of it. One of those courts, 14 is environmental court. And what you do in Jones Sessions Court is you handle misdemeanor cases from arrest to arraignment. On felony case, you have to handle those cases from arraignment up until a preliminary hearing. And the difference is this pretty much. If you got a case that's a misdemeanor, that case can be disposed of down in General Sessions Court, which means a judge can give you up to 11 months, 29 days in jail. And then they're classified in misdemeanors A, B, or C. A C misdemeanor, of course, is carries up to 30 days, a B up to 6 months, and then, of course, an A misdemeanor is carries up to 11 months, 29 days in jail. But that don't mean you'll get that 11 or 29, but that's the most the judge can sentence you to. And you're also only entitled to bench trials downstairs, whereas upstairs in criminal court, you actually get a jury trial.
So
So
tell,
we can.
tell us what a bench trial is.
It's when the prosecutor puts on their case. That's who always presents the cases. Always the state of Tennessee first, their particular defendant. So they put on their cases, and if they prove that it's you that would happen in Shelby County, and you're the one who committed that crime, and you all elements of that crimes, and just for them feel like they prove beyond a reasonable doubt to a more certainly we could find them guilty. If the judge has reasonable doubt, just like a jury will have reasonable doubts, they have to find the person's not guilty.
So I just wanted to clarify the difference between a bench trial and a jury trial. So a bench trial means a judge is the one who makes the decision,
Right.
all
If you're
by
innocent or guilty.
himself or
Right.
herself. A
Yes.
jury trial means that you have 12 people from the community that come to court and sit down and listen to the evidence that's presented by the government and the evidence that's presented by the defense if they choose to present evidence, and then the jury is the one who makes the decision. So in
Yes.
General Sessions Court, you can only have a bench trial,
But
right?
in General Sessions trial too, the difference too is that the judge hears the trial, but the judge also sentences that person. So you can have recommendation, just like as Ms. Turner is the defense lawyer, she can recommend, well, oh my God, get 6 months. The state might say they want to get 7 years, but ultimately the judge decides that sentence for that person. But again, we're still limited to only give you 11 months, 29 days. We certainly can grant probation. We certainly can take things up in advisement as well.
Now, you were a General Sessions court judge before. Can you tell us something a little bit about that?
Yes, I ran for judge in 1998 and was successful. Thank God for that. And I was a judge for 8 years. Of those 8 years, 5 of those, I volunteered to be the domestic violence judge because we were having a lot of problems with domestic violence during that time. And so it wasn't a court that was organized, or so I volunteered to do domestic violence, and I ended up doing it for 5 years. I stopped doing it because the funding ran out, and I didn't think it would be a very safe thing for me to keep doing without the appropriate funding. And also, the court could not survive off just grants. So if they didn't get permanent funding, it was going to eventually go away anyway. And thank God now we do have a permanent domestic violence court.
So right now you are working with the sheriff's department, correct?
Yes, I'm ex on what they call it's a long name. It's a special assistant to the sheriff. It's an interdiction detainment person. Basically, in short terms, I'm what they call an expediter. This is the position nobody's ever had. It's a brand new position that the sheriff came up with because he wanted to expedite people through the system. He also wanted to make sure we weed out people that didn't need to be there. So, in other words,
In the Shelby County Jail.
uh huh.
Yes.
Right. So he wanted to make sure people that need to be there, but the ones that didn't need to be weeded out. And if we had some backlog somewhere because something happened down the road, then we could look into that. But your jail became is a dumping ground for everybody. They just dump if you mentally ill, if you got any kind of offense, or people afraid of you, people don't want to have anything to do. You got drug addiction, they just bring everybody to jail. And so jail became a dumping ground for so many people. But we don't have services in the jail to really give people. So when I got down there, what I tried to do is try to divert those people to the appropriate places, and the ones that don't need immediately let the court know these people got problems, mental illness, or they got some kind of substance abuse or something. So we can try to start working on those cases as soon as they get to the system. And as many as we can get out, the better we are with them going to services instead of being technically being punished. If it's some service could be available to help those people and get their lives back on track.
So how do you identify these individuals, people who are in the jail and you feel like this is really not the place that they need to be? How are you able to identify those people?
We work with really, really good resource. The person's there 14 days. They have an assessment, and assessment can tell mental illness or physical issues they got going on. But I'm telling you, the first thing, Camilla, what happens to us is that you got a mental problem, and you tell us you got a mental problem, and we know you're a consumer, a mental health consumer, then we immediately start working on those to get those records from family members or community people to see what we can do to get you back in service. Maybe you're off your medication, and maybe we need to get that restarted. But a lot of times we can just kind of and then certain smart companies got some intellectually disabled person. We pretty much you can look at a person and tell those type things. And so it just they come in, they in wheelchairs, they're on canes. You got things that we got people that's sick and ill that they arrest everybody. I put it like this, and they come in, they're on canes. The jail cannot accommodate certain people. So sometimes on the initial intake, I could tell that person got a problem. So I have to talk to the judicial commissioner or talk to a judge and see if we can try to get that person or release or get them to the hospital or give them the service they need. Then after that, we get referrals. You can once a person is accessed, or a lawyer or a community people, you'd be surprised. I mean, family members call me all the time and say, Mischelle, my son got a mental problems. My son got a substance abuse problem. Then I don't assume they're not telling the truth. I will look into it. If it's something that I found is there's some validity to it, then we try to offer them services and we try to make sure we let the court know what's going on with this particular person.
So I want to talk some more about that because a lot of times family members will have a loved one in jail and they don't know what to do because they know the person has mental health issues or they think the person is in danger or they think that they have some information that somebody in the jail needs to know. What should they do in those situations?
Well, you can call me as the expediter, but you also can call the chief of security. You also know we have a medical staff. The medical staff is WellPath. It's an independent contractor, but they do all our health stuff as far as physical and also as far as mental. So you contact any of those people, most likely eventually it's going to land on my desk and I'm going to have something to do with it. And so I can make sure that I'm connected people. I reach out to family members all the time. I call a family member and say, I need to know what your son medicine was on. Because sometimes even they don't give us quite all the information. So if I'm trying to send a person out and say what kind of medicine your son is on, and they can provide the information, we can put it into the file. That I mean, I can give that medicine, but I can at least let our medical staff know that he was taking Haldol, he was taking this on the street, so they have some idea what's going on with them. So yeah, that's one reason why this was created, so you have a person to go to that would have those connections and resources, and also because I'm down in the jail, I can actually go check on that person myself.
Well, that's good to know. Now, I know that you are a professor at Lemoyne College. Is that correct?
Yes, been doing over 20 years. Used to
Yes.
teach at Strayer, and I also taught at what used to be Shelby State, which is now Southwest.
So, what do you teach at Lemoyne College now?
Well, everybody, whenever you graduate, and I'm sure you took this too in undergrad, almost everybody take what they call business law. So my course is one of the requirement course you have to take before you graduate business law. But I also can teach ethics and I also can teach labor relations.
Okay. Well, my parents met at Lemoyne College, so that's
Yes.
always always be a special
Yes,
place for
yes.
me, even though I never attended there. And my aunt teaches there as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Uh-huh. Yeah. It's
um,
great school, great HBCU school.
what do you consider one of the major challenges facing our justice system, in particular in Memphis?
Well, certainly it's something to be done with the bail system we got because I don't. It's there's no uniformity that's there, so that need to be changed to a certain degree. I also think that a lot of stuff need to be before people actually get into our systems. We need to have some kind of way to weed them out. And I understand that if when a person is comes in the intake, if there was a way for a judge to be down there and they can assess the situation right then and there, that might determine who would come to jail, who would not come to jail. Instead, you waiting 3 or 4 weeks before a person get in front of us. And when COVID hit, it really made it very difficult because when we put people in, they come in quarantine. So I mean, that delayed their cases. So if we could put some kind of way to screen those people when they first come in, so it don't be such a delay. Even you come in with COVID, you still got technology. That's one thing I could not get the judge to use. I could not get them to use technology and Zoom and things of that nature during this pandemic, which was horrible. And so therefore, I go in PPE suit inside the pod and say what's about it. If you're just looking at a person on the camera just like me and you are, that person still case could be moved instead of you waiting 2 or 3 weeks. Or if they say they're in quarantine, that means, well, we can't see them or whatever. So I was just surprised that we just wasn't prepared for crisis like we are. I was surprised at the lack of course using technology. So that certainly need to be implemented. We also need to go through our dockets and weed out cases that need to be old warrants, things that need to be thrown away or disposed of or whatever. Because they got over the day I was talking to one of the deputies, they got over 100,000 warrants just sitting there over in fugitive that we could go through and get rid of. And so when they have these buses, they always make people think they're doing sometimes something brand new stuff. A lot of sometimes just old warrants is there that nobody's ever gone back through. And there's so many of them, Camilla, we can't, you can't just say we're going to do them that way. So they grab a bunch of them. And then out of hundreds, you may have two that's a case that's decent for you to go in and possibly arrest. But because they're out there doing the saturation, they issue all of them out. And it's just that
Right.
needs to stop.
Yeah, and just so people understand what that means, is if you have a warrant, you could have a warrant for 1 year, 1 month, 2 years, 10 years, and you may never know it. And you may be driving down the street one day, you may be doing whatever, minding your business, and then you find out, oh, I didn't know I had this warrant, and you have to go to jail.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go through the process of being booked. If you're a woman, you have to go out to jail lease and
Mm-hmm.
go through that whole process. So it's definitely an issue. I've had people with warrants 15 years old or more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it definitely something definitely needs to be done with that going through. And I understand that during the pandemic, that was something that they did, go through old warrants and start dismissing. That was my understanding.
I think they selectively decided which ones because there still is too many out there. They could have did, and also we was talking about they could also give people citations. When I was on the bench before, when people get violated for probation or diversion, I would give them a summons instead of making them get arrested. So a lot of stuff could be changed. Instead of going to arrest, they could change to a summons or a citation, and then they could go and process those people. Also, would keep them from coming out to the system as well. And I was one of the people that implemented that because I kept saying, if I can go get them processed just like that, that's not going through the system. They still got their court dates. They still been told what they've been charged with, and then they're not in the jail.
Right. And being arrested is so disruptive to a person's life. And if it's not absolutely necessary, I always feel like we don't have to arrest somebody on every offense. If it's a
No.
nonviolent offense, we know they have a stable address, phone number. Just give them a summons and tell them when to show up to court. Once you get arrested, sometimes you can lose your job, you can lose housing. Sometimes I've seen all types of things happen. People get put out of their homes and all of your stuff is on the street. And when you come get out of jail, it may take you a while to get bond money together. And by the time you get out, you've lost all of your belongings because somebody found out you got arrested and they went and stole all of your things. All of these things that happen
Well,
sometimes.
I think the average person doesn't understand, Camilla, that when you get arrested, it's not a quick process. You don't get arrested, you out 5 minutes later. You're not gonna get out of jail less than 6, 7, 8, maybe 11 hours. So it's not like I can just turn you around. You charge a DV case, of course, you can't get out until after 12 hours. So I think that's the problem. People don't realize that you're not gonna just come down there and in another minute you're gonna be out. You're going through the whole process of getting booked and processed. And booking process is a long time. It's not. It's gonna take you again 11 to 12 hours just to get booked and processed. Even when you're going in and you make somebody meet to make your bond. So I think the public need to understand that it's not just coming in, they're gonna get them out just now. That's why I always tell a relative, let us call you when he or she is ready, so then you know to come and pick them up then. Because you sit out there in that park lot waiting on those people, and you sit out there 5 or 6 hours, and if there's any kind of glitch, or if they're a new person, fingerprints got to be rolled as a new offender, that even takes longer.
Exactly. Another thing, people are always amazed when I tell them somebody could come down and say, this person did this to me. And they don't necessarily have to go and interview anybody. They don't have to try to get any evidence to corroborate what this person is saying. They don't have to figure out whether this person is mentally ill and is known for making up things about people. They will issue a warrant for your arrest. And at that point, you have to go through the system and be booked and processed and taken into custody.
Well, that's because when people come and do affidavits, they swear that they're telling the truth. And so we don't go through the process of saying that you lying, not telling lying. Now, when I first got on the bench years ago, we as judges would have those people come in front of the court. I would ask them a bunch of questions, and I would decide, no, I'm going to issue an affidavit or at risk for those people. But now that doesn't happen anymore. So basically, they come down, raise their hand, and say, somebody did blah, blah, to me. I'm telling the truth. You sign off on it. And so that's what happened. And once you get that affidavit, you get that, and they can come out and arrest you. I mean, it could be not, a lot of it could be false. But then you got to take whatever on the other side. Somebody didn't do something, especially when I used to be a DV person, and somebody end up not reporting something, and something happens to that person, or that person get killed because they didn't do it, or somebody didn't accept it. So you kind of have to balance it out. Unless the law changed, that's the way it is right now.
Right. Well, we are almost out of time. Do you have any closing words for our listeners?
Yes, I would like for you to go out and vote and support me. I'm running for judge in General Sessions Division 12. You can see that we need to make some changes in that courtroom. I have the ability. I'm dedicated to what I want to do, and I do want to make some changes. I think it'd be nice to have a night court and maybe sometime a court on the weekend possibly. So I have a lot of great ideas, and I don't have a problem with using technology. So I'll be glad to do what I can do and put a crisis plan in place so that something like COVID happen again, we'll be prepared. So please remember, you can go remember me, Mischelle Alexander Best. Remember, good, better, best.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Have a good
Thank you.
night.
You do the same. Be safe.
Right. You too. All right. Thank you. Our next guest is Cedric Wooten, and I am going to add, are you there? Can you hear me?
I'm here. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us.
Good evening to you. Thank you for
Yes,
inviting me.
absolutely. Cedric Wooten is running for Circuit Court, Shelby County Circuit Court, Division 6. Can you tell us a little bit about that court, what the judges do in that court?
Well, the Circuit Court is actually the court of record in Shelby County for civil matters. It hears appeals from General Sessions Court, any matter over $25,000, divorces, civil matters that include car accidents, medical malpractice cases, breach of contract cases. We call that, generally refer to it as the money court, because generally when people come there, they're dealing with money matters.
And why have you decided to run for this position?
Well, this is when I was in private practice, I concentrated on representing businesses, churches. I did handle family law cases as well. Also, I am currently the chief administrative officer of the circuit court now. So I work with all 9 judges every day to make certain that the court runs efficiently. And this so happens to be the court that my mentor has served in for the past 17 years, Judge Jerry Stokes, and he's retiring. And it is an honor to be able to have the privilege to be able to run and to fill a seat in which that he's voting at the end of this month.
Now, I learned that you are a former school teacher, correct?
Yes, 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 yes. I spent 10 years in Memphis City Schools as a teacher, math and science teacher at Airways Junior High School. I also coached football there before going to Kingsbury Middle and Senior High School, where I was an assistant principal for 5 years before I went to law school.
So, how do you think that your background in education has prepared you for a judgeship, a seat on the bench?
That's great. That's a great question. Well, oftentimes people don't really know what happens in court. Most, everybody associates judges to being criminal judges, but there is a civil division as well. But I think it's important for someone who's sitting on the bench to have a connection to the community, to understand that those words and those opinions and those rulings are not just words on paper. They actually impact people's lives. Having a real world connection, having real work experience, those things allow you to share a perspective from litigants while sitting on the bench and be able to make decisions, I think, with a consideration of those people and how those decisions are going to impact their lives.
A lot of people in civil court do not have representation. They are not afforded free representation as they would in criminal court. So a person who is a respondent may be up against a corporation with a team of lawyers. How are those people to feel like they would get a fair chance in court?
Well, I think what happens is, or what should happen is, it should be explained to those individuals in the beginning of the process that they're going against skilled, trained lawyers, and it is in their best interest to get counsel representation. But if they choose, as which is their right, if they choose to represent themselves, then to make them aware of the resources that are available to them, to include Memphis area legal services, the law library, and things of that nature, those resources, so that they will be as adequately prepared as possible when they come to court.
What do you feel are some of the major challenges? A lot of people feel like they don't have a lot of faith in the justice system overall, whether it's on the criminal side or the civil side. So, how do you think that judges can play a role in changing that?
That is a great question. The first thing is to be competent. Judges need to be skilled. They need to be competent in the law. But in addition to that, they need to be competent in the rules and be respectful of the rules. You need to be able to adhere to the rule. And even when explaining and administering justice or ruling, being showing some humanity. One can explain what's going on in the courthouse or in the courtroom without disassociating yourself from people, detaching yourself in the way that you communicate with people. I think your character, understanding that the courthouse belongs to the people, that allows you to have a connection to the people, because ultimately we are elected by the people and you work for the people. So you need to have a connection to people to be able to communicate with those people, and then to be able to have the courage to do the right thing. Judges have an amazing amount of discretion in being able to look at the law and being able to consider all of the facts that are considered in the matter, and then being able to make a decision, and then being able to deliver that decision in a manner that does not dehumanize or degrade people in any way. I think that helps to restore the faith of our system, our justice and legal system, and give people some sense of faith in that.
Well, we are almost out of time. Do you have any closing words? Oh, there's one question I meant to
Sure.
ask you. What do you consider one of your greatest professional accomplishments?
Well, one of my greatest professional accomplishments, I think that, well, if I had to pick out one of them, and it has been being versatile enough to be able to adapt to the situation. I was in private practice for a while. I went to work for the AG's office for about 15 months. I shifted and pivoted to become the chief administrative officer of the criminal court clerk's office. And then I've been in this role for a little less than a year now. So my ability to be able to understand, accept the assignment, understand the responsibilities and the duties, and to take on those take those duties and responsibilities seriously, and to educate and equip myself with what I need to do the job that I've been charged to do.
Well, thank you. Do you have any closing words for our listeners?
Yes, my name is Cedric D. Wooten. I'm running for Circuit Court Judge in Division 6. It is important. Representation is important. Judge Jerry Stokes is retiring from this position. He's been on the bench 17 years. He's endorsed me, as well as Judge George H. Brown, who was on the bench for 25 years prior to Judge Stokes. That's 42 years of judicial experience. I think they know a little bit about what it takes to be a judge. I hope that the people have faith in me and give me an opportunity to continue the legacy of Circuit Court Division 6. Cedric D. Wooten, Circuit Court Judge Division 6.
Well, thank you so much, Cedric Wooten, Circuit Court Division 6. You can vote early until this Friday, the 30th. And of course, Election Day is August the 4th. Thank you
Yes.
for joining me.
Thank
Have a
you.
good
Thank you for
evening.
the invitation. Have a good evening.
You too. All right. My next guest is the Honorable Judge Loyce Lambert Ryan. She is running for re-election. She's running to keep her seat in General Sessions Criminal Court, Division 15. Good evening, Judge.
Good evening. Good evening.
Yes, it's good to see you again. We were last night, many of you know the National Bar Association is hosting the National Convention in Memphis this week. So last night was, we had our big welcome reception out on the plaza of the FedEx Forum. It was an all white event. We had great music. It was just wonderful. So
And
we were.
congratulations to you because you were part of the planning committee of the Ben F. Jones chapter of the Bar Association.
Thank you. So tell us what you do in your current position, how long you've been doing it, and why you would like to keep doing it.
Well, I'm currently the judge in General Sessions Division 15, Criminal Division. I handle misdemeanors, felony preliminary matters, preliminary hearings, guilty pleas, motions, things along that line. I've been doing that for the last 22 years, but as a judge. But my connection with the criminal justice system at 201 Poplar, now known as the Walter Bailey Courthouse, has been going on since 1985. I started out in the public defender's office, of course, doing misdemeanors, felonies, and felony preliminary matters. I did jury trials. I did first degree murder cases. I did appellate cases. I've done quite a few different things in the criminal arena and as far as the practice of law is concerned.
And why do you feel like you would like to do even more?
Well, I really feel I have a lot more to give. As I think about it, there is wealth in institutional knowledge. I've been focused in on the last few years dealing with issues of the administration of justice, not just the individual cases, but how the system works. This really came to light when dealing with the pandemic and how efficient our system was. I was honored to be asked to write the pandemic plan for the General Sessions criminal divisions. As part of that plan, we had to figure out how to get people processed in to the courthouse from the physical arrest, going through the jail, getting to the clerk's office, getting to the judicial commissioners, all those different things that make a system work. We were already working on a processes as the administrative judge as the administrative judge for the judicial commissioners and doing a grid, so to speak, on making decisions on release eligibility. That was in February. In March, the pandemic hit. So we had to start implementing those plans we already had made to try to figure out how to process people into the system and release them, and also how to get them into court. We were not electronic. And most people don't realize that there are some computerizations as part of the system. There are some video options as far as seeing inmates and persons in the jail, but we were not up to speed. So I've been really interested in the community, in the actual implication of how we will improve this system. If the system doesn't work fairly, constitutional rights cannot be guaranteed. So I was already on the cusp of looking at those issues prior to the pandemic, and they're even come more to light now that we're in the pandemic, we're working through the pandemic, and we still need to better our administration of justice in this county.
So one of the things I know in your courtroom, you always demand that people have respect for the court. And I know a lot of times, especially I would say in the past 10 years, people seem to kind of come to court looking any kind of way they want to look, or behaving any kind of way. And you have rules on the door. And I talk to my clients, and it seems like sometimes even when you talk to your clients, they don't get it and they show up, and you have to say, wait a minute, didn't we have this discussion? But why is that something that's important to you?
Well, it's not necessarily important just to me. It's not an individual thing. It's about respect of the court. It's not necessarily about respect of Loyce, Lambert, Ryan. It's respect of the robe. The process, the fact that I am sitting in justice and making decisions. It gets back to that old adage, first impressions. First impressions. There are certain things that are appropriate when you're handling business. And a lot of people just don't have that experience of handling business in life, meaning coming in and wearing the appropriate clothes for a job interview, or the appropriate attire in a certain situation, making a good first impression. And it's actually lessons being taught that, you don't come to court with midriff tops and short pants, very short pants. That's not appropriate. It doesn't necessarily lend for a good impression. You don't come to court with marijuana emblems on your shirt, and you're not an advocate for medical marijuana, but you're there being prosecuted for large possessions of drugs. So it's about how you present yourself and how your appearance tells your story about why you're there. And it just gets back to first impressions. It's nothing new. And it's not necessarily just respect for the court system, but respect for yourself. Individuals need to know how to handle business. You don't go to a bank asking for a car loan and you're walking barefoot. It just doesn't match up. So people just really need to kind of think about their presence and where they are, and what they're trying to represent to the public.
Thank you. So I know that you are very active in the Memphis community. When I first met you as a teenager, I was active in Top Teens of America, and you were active in the Top Ladies of Distinction. I know that you are a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, the River City Lynx. You're active in your church, Parkway Gardens. Why is that something, community involvement and engagement? Why have you made that a priority?
I think one has to share their blessings. I've been blessed to be have a good job, have a home, have a great family, have learned some wonderful lessons in life. And those types of things, the basics to be shared. I love working with young people. As you know, you mentioned Top Teens. I've been with Top Teens and Top Ladies of Distinction for over 25 years. And that's just working with young people, developing minds, trying to get you succeed and get on the right path. The same thing with my sorority, with the links and the youth component of that organization. And especially my church. My church has given so much to me, and as a church will give to any one person that's a member. And it's part of life's wonders to give to others. I mean, it's just so fulfilling for me, and I'd like to just think that every now and then I might have touched one person and put them on a good path.
Yes.
It's really kind of
Um,
simple. It doesn't matter what kind of profession you're in. Uh, I'm a servant leader because I'm considered a servant leader because I'm a judge. But everyone should be a servant to give to others and to try to better the lives of others.
what do you consider one of your major professional accomplishments?
Um, it's kind of difficult for me to say. I've had a lot of firsts in my professional career. I was first female president of the Ben F. Jones chapter of the National Bar Association. I was the first woman, one of the first women to be certified by the Supreme Court to do capital cases, murder cases. I was the first woman that was the supervisor of that unit and a first member of that unit and the first female supervisor of that unit in the public defender's office. I've had many firsts, I would believe, but uh, one of the most important things to me right now that's occurred literally today, I was involved in the nomination for me to be on a committee dealing with litigation for my church. It may sound a little strange, but the Presbyterians have a book of order and a processes for reviewing complaints and different things that happen within the church. I was involved at the local level and the presbytery level. I was involved in the regional level, the synod level, and I wanted to grow and be involved in the greater church. And so I was nominated by the greater church to be on the advisory committee for litigation. Well, what is that? That committee reviews issues that relate to other denominations that we feel the Presbyterian Church may want to get involved in Americi briefs or Friends of the Court briefs or give opinions of how it might relate to the Presbyterian Church nationally. We are a church of order, so we have due process involved in religion. So tying that religion and the concepts of due process that I have with the law, it's a natural for me and something I'm looking forward to working with the greater church with, setting policy and procedure.
Well, that is wonderful. Another thing, I see that you were involved in getting electronic filing in the General Sessions Court, and I don't know, is that something that is in effect now? And can you tell us a little bit more about that?
What I did was we set up a processes to try to figure out how to keep as fewer people out of the courthouse at any given time. As you probably know, we have a lot of Zoom work that's being done with the prosecutors doing the negotiations and discovery and things like that. So there are not that many actual motions that are filed in the General Sessions Court. So we have a processes, we set up a processes to see whether or not practitioners wanted to do that, filing motions to suppress, motions for bond hearings, where you can file it electronically. It's served on the state. It's filed in the clerk's office, and it's worked to some great extent because we just don't have that much motion practice in the General Sessions courts because it's not a court of record. So, but there are motions that can be filed under the rules of civil procedure and procedural motions and even substantive motions that could be filed. So I wanted to set up the processes to see whether or not the bar itself that practices in these courts is interested in doing that. And that was really done during the height of the pandemic when we were trying to figure out ways how to keep the crowds of people out of the courthouse. Even though we had people that were in custody and we were required to be open, those cases that were not in custody, persons that were being represented by our attorneys, they could file it electronically rather than coming down to the courthouse and literally doing it the manual way of getting it filed stamped by a clerk.
Yes. Well, I will say that there are certainly far less people in the courthouse on the lower level of 201 Poplar compared to 3 years ago before the pandemic. So I think that's a good thing. And I hope that the court will continue to become more efficient.
I think that is definitely a goal of ours. We see that it works. Um, there's certain things we're building in as we go, and we have already built in as far as communicating. There's so many integral parts of the court before you get to the courtroom, and so we're honing those things. We're getting those things, looking at them. It's a lot of movement still yet. The pandemic is still here. And so we are working hard to keep people safe and keep our staff safe.
So we are almost out of time. Do you have any closing words for our listeners?
Well, I just like to say that my name is Loyce Lambert Ryan, and I am the judge in General Sessions Division 15. I've been your judge for the last 22 years. I've been working in the criminal justice system since 1985. I have yet a lot to give. As you've heard from this conversation, I'm not just sitting on the back burner saying, well, what's going to happen next? I want to be at the forefront of making positive change in the criminal justice system and making positive changes in regards to what's going on in our community. I like your vote. I like your support. I like your influence. I want you to go out and tell other people about Loyce Lambert Ryan, the judge in General Sessions Division 15, and go out and vote. The numbers at the polls are low. Make your choices known. It's a large ballot, but you can get finished with it in about 10 or 15 minutes. It's air conditioned in the polls. You walk right in. The people that work in the polls are experienced. So please go out and vote. And remember, Loyce Lambert Ryan, your judge in General Sessions Division 15. Please vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge, for being here. Thank you to all of our listeners tonight. I plan to be back on Wednesday. Of course, I'll send out a reminder. Please share the videos and tell your friends. We're going to keep doing this until Election Day because this is very, very important. Thank you again to everybody. Have a good night.
Good night, and thank you so very much for having me.
Thank you for being here. Good night.
Good night.